Section 10 of Ads and Sales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Ads and Sales, a study of advertising and selling from the standpoint of the New Principles of Scientific Management by Herbert Newton Casson. Chapter 9, An Analysis of Current Advertising, Part 2. The College Yell Advertisement. This is one of the most popular and will probably always remain so. It's a catchy slogan, easily remembered, and suggestive of the article. The popular mind seems to crave these slogans. There is no easier way to keep a fact in mind than by putting it into tabloid form and making it a jingle. Presidential elections have been won by good slogans and lost by bad ones. Romanism and rebellion probably kept Blaine out of the White House, just as the first full dinner pail won the contest for McKinley. A really well-chosen college yell is the very pith of an advertising campaign. It adds a touch of enthusiasm and good humor that is invaluable. Best of all, it is rememberable, which is what 9/10 of all the other types of advertisements are not. To be first class, it must be alliterative, rhythmical, or fantastic. It must be more than one simple statement. The following, for instance, are examples of the best slogans. Don't travel, telephone, used by Bell Telephone Company. The ham what am, used by Armour Company. Hammer the hammer, used by Ivor Johnson Company. A Kalamazoo direct to you, used by Kalamazoo Stove Company. The Road of 1,000 Wonders, used by Southern Pacific Railroad. The Watch That Made the Dollar Famous, used by Ingersoll Company. Some college yells are too long to be first class. For example, when you think of writing, think of Whiting, used by the Whiting Paper Company, is too clumsy. When writing, use Whiting would be better. Some do not suggest the article as eventually, why not now, used by Washburn Crosby Flour Company, or ask the man who owns one, used by Packard Motor Company. Some have a pretty idea poorly expressed, as there is beauty in every jar, used by F. F. Ingram Company in advertising milkweed cream. Some are incredibly commonplace, such as Who's Your Tailor, used by E. V. Price Company, and others are incredibly awkward, such as For School Life or Life School, used by L. E. Waterman Company, and The Watch That's Made for the Majority, used by Elgin National Watch Company. In advertisements meant for women only, a quaint thought, daintily expressed, has often proved effective, even though it is not structurally unique, such as Have You a Little Fairy in Your Home? Used by N. K. Fairbank Company, and Rub Out Tonight, The Wrinkles of Today, used by Pompeian Manufacturing Company. A slogan can scarcely be too simple or too jingling if it suggests the advertised article, and if it has been established by a long series of fact advertisements. The acreage advertisement. This is the full-page or two-page or sometimes six-page advertisement, which does not need to be so large to tell its story, but which is made large to impress the public. It is the advertisement of size. It is the jumbo of advertisements. Merely for the insertion of a single one of these acreage ads, an advertisement will pay the sum equal to the whole yearly salary of a United States senator, and once in a while, twice as much. An acreage advertisement does not prove the goods are good, but only that the advertiser has plenty of money and is willing to spend it. It does attract attention and give prestige, somewhat as a World's Fair gives prestige to the city that holds it. But an advertisement that is big, without any special reason for its bigness, is displeasing to many people. A magazine page should not be turned into a billboard. One acreage advertisement, for instance, which recently occupied 2 pages of the Saturday Evening Post, contained 13 words and the faces of 2 men. $600 a word. Such an advertisement was absurd and harmful. It was a degradation of advertising, and the time will come when no reputable advertising agent will allow his name to be connected with such a vulgar space killer. The truth is that very few advertisements, not 1 in 10,000, are worth 2 pages in any national magazine. It is the very essence of advertising efficiency to condense the advertisement, to cut it into 2, and yet to build it so cleverly that it produces the same results. Less space and better copy. That is the motif of the future. The art gallery advertisement. This style also uses an unusual amount of space, but not offensively. The main thing in it is not the copy, but the illustration. It is frankly nothing more than a pleasing picture with as few words as possible to remind the reader of the advertiser. It is an effective species when used by a well-known advertiser, but not otherwise. No unknown corporation can use it. Of the 8,000 advertisements that I classified, the best art gallery advertisement was one that was devised by the Prudential Insurance Company at the time that the American battle fleet made its trip around the world. It was a painting of the fleet passing the Rock of Gibraltar, the usual symbol of the Prudential. Underneath were the words, "The fleet protects the nation. Prudential Life Insurance protects the home." It was timely, impressive, patriotic, and rememberable. Several of the clothing manufacturers, notably Hart, Schaffner, and Marx, were making use of the art gallery advertisement as a relief from the perpetual fashion plate species. There is the usual well-dressed young man with the plaster cast face, but he is drawn into an interesting picture, such as a scene on the levee at New Orleans. The Victor Talking Machine Company uses the art gallery type to show groups of grand opera artists. The railroads use it to show the scenery that can be reached by their lines. The Piers Soap Company uses it frequently, showing a group of statuary or remarkably beautiful child's face. The Cream of Wheat Company is using it in a unique series of paintings that throw a real human interest around its products, the story being told by the picture and not in words. Colgate and Company used it in one noticeable instance when they displayed stupendous cans of talcum powder towering above the snow-clad Alps. The trademark advertisement. This is very different from the art gallery species, which is designed mainly to attract and please the public. The trademark ad is written wholly from the point of view of the advertiser, not the reader. It takes interest of the public for granted. It also takes the quality of its goods for granted. It assumes that the public knows about the goods and is anxious to buy them, but that some insidious competitors are trying to palm off goods of inferior quality. To prevent this deception, therefore, the advertiser gives the public a certain symbol, by means of which the real goods can always be identified. Thus, the trademark advertisement is of very little value when 1. The goods are no better than the competitor's goods, and when 2. The public is not especially interested. As a rule, this type of advertisement should not be used to establish an article in popular favor, but to be of much service when once the popularity of the goods is established. The symbol that is adopted must be simple and rememberable.
It must be distinctive and not like half a dozen other symbols, and it ought in some way to suggest the goods or the name of the corporation. HO and Nabisco are instances of the best class of symbols or trade names. They are unique and suggest the name of the company. Hyde Grade and R&G Corset suggest the name, but are not unique or memorable. Unida, on the contrary, does not suggest the goods or the company, but it is unique and has been amazingly successful. Others of the same type as Unida are Zozodont, C-Rex, Suzu, and Sapolio. Royal, as applied to the baking powder, is said to be worth more than $8 million, but the word itself was accidentally chosen. So with the symbol regal. It could have been popularized with less cost if it had been a more suitable word. Prophylactic seems at first to be as bad as possible, but it is catchy with dentists who have a fondness for technical words. Occident, as applied to a flower, and myopia, as applied to a collar, are inexcusable. Blue label, as applied to preserved goods, is not distinctive. Any competitor who advertised a red label would confuse the public. So with the Stetson shoes Red Diamond. Any other shoe manufacturer may cut down its value by adopting a red star or a red cross. Already a big A is used as a trademark by the American Cigar Company, the Alvin Manufacturing Company, and the American Writing Paper Company. Worse still, the Keystone Watch Case Company advertises 3 different trademarks of its own, and the Scott and Williams Company advertises 4, as though the public had nothing else to do except to remember trademarks. The gush advertisement. The cause of this style of advertisement is a too easy flow of poetical language. It is found frequently in the southern states and is effective there. It would probably be effective in South America or Mexico, but in all northern countries where there is less exuberance of language, it can have little or no influence upon the public. The gush species is permissible if there is a universal sentimental interest in the advertised article. In the pen picture of a piano, or in the description of scenery, a writer may and should be emotional. He may legitimately say that with the phrasing lever of the Angelus you can bring forth the soul of music. Or he may say that Lake Tahoe is pure as a virgin's tears. There should be more sentiment, much more, in advertising. There may even be pathos, when pathos is justified. But in the following instances, the use of the gush type of advertisement was silly and futile, as the goods are not of such nature as to warrant such language. A veritable restorer of recreative and soothing potency, used to describe malt nutrine. The mighty Oliver typewriter with power for every need. The finest food on earth, used to describe Snyder pork and beans. Man's greatest pleasure, his truest gratification, everywhere in the civilized world, is in the use of Pear's soap. Sweet as the lily that blooms in July, light as the golden sunbeam, delicious as the fairy food of fancy, are Nabisco sugar wafers. Its advertising columns are the showplace of the universe, used to describe the Cincinnati Enquirer. The dictionary advertisement. This is somewhat akin to the gush species, but instead of being emotional and rhapsodical, it is learned and dignified. It revels in big words, abstract words, jaw-breaking words. It is designed apparently for college professors only. Usually it is the work of some very young and very verdant writer who is trying to give his first advertisements an air of wisdom and experience. In conveying a great thought to a limited number of very learned people, this form of advertising is permissible. It would be effective in the North American Review or the Atlantic Monthly, but to reach the mass of people who read the popular magazines, it is a sheer waste of words and money. So far as 99 readers out of every 100 are concerned, it might as well be printed in Sanskrit. Possibly, this style may be used to sell encyclopedias. It was, at any rate, used largely in selling the last edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Here, for instance, is a sample sentence of that advertising. Quote, "The lecture rooms of a university and the laboratories of an institution of research are fountainheads inaccessible to all but a small minority, and although that minority eludes students who will in turn become teachers, it is not possible that in every part of the English-speaking world education of more than the most rudimentary kind should be available to all who have the intelligence to assimilate it." Close quote. The very able and well-sustained advertisements of the Bell systems of telephony are now and then of the dictionary species. This headline, for example, is distinctly of this sort: "The Sixth Sense, the Power of Personal Projection." In the body of this ad, the statement is made that the Bell telephone extends your personality to its fullest limitations, applies the multiplication table to your business possibilities. This kind of language is Choctaw to most people, and there is good reason to believe that it seldom or never sells goods. Still, a national telephone system is a vast thing and may require vast language, but there is no reason why the Jackson Automobile Company should say that it has been gradually preempting the special prerogatives of the costliest cars, or why the Mayhew Furniture Company should say that artistic fidelity and material integrity are not abstractions in the building of Mayhew furniture. Least of all should the dictionary style be used in appealing to women. A woman's mind is not influenced by abstract reasoning. One striking is more effective with her than a natural law. One wee little fact that she already knows will sway her more powerfully than the latest scientific hypothesis. She will pay little attention, therefore, when the armor company advertises that the art of basting is based on certain definite fundamental principles of chemical action. Neither will she be likely to take quick action when the white enamel refrigerator company tells her that infant mortality would be greatly reduced if all homes were equipped with bone refrigerators. She would be much more likely to act if she were told, "Get a bone refrigerator if you don't want your own baby to die." The April Fool advertisement. The distinguishing mark of this species is a headline or illustration that has no connection with the subject. Its aim is to trick people into taking notice of it. Apparently there is nothing in the goods to interest the public, so the advertiser throws in a picture of the Eiffel Tower or an ostrich, anything that happens to be handy, to brighten up his advertisement. The result is an advertisement that may be very catchy and attractive, but that is almost always quite worthless as a seller of goods. It does not create a strong impression. It does not convince. It divides the reader's mind, and the part that is interesting is not the part that is of any value. Worse still, it gives a shock to the mind. It shows you a fine picture of the Eiffel Tower, and then when your attention is secured, it says, "April Fool, I only want to tell you about the Smith brand of shoelaces." An aeroplane, for example, is used to draw buyers to Peter's chocolate. A marching regiment leads the way to Colgate's ribbon dental cream. Two cats playing checkers remind you of the Ostermoor mattress. The Venus de Milo stands as a signpost of Kellogg's toasted cornflakes. The Statue of Liberty holds her torch so that you may see the Seaboard Airline. And a sketch of Noah Webster is supposed to lure you into the purchase of a faultless nightshirt? One extraordinary ad of the April Fool type holds up, 1. A picture of a house that is falling down. The headline asks the question, 2. Is your foundation faulty? Next comes the statement that 3. 98% of life's failures can be traced to faulty foundations. Wandering still farther in this confused maze, you find this good advice: 4. Mothers, build well the foundations of your children. And finally, you are given a quick jerk from the theoretical to the practical and told to give the children, 5. Plenty of ego-see. 2 advertisements appeared lately in the headlines, The Man and the Dollar. These, instead of being announcements of a new savings bank for men only, as you would naturally suppose, were intended to sell the stock of the Consolidated Motor Company, and a highly moral advertisement which carried the headline, A Life to be Satisfactory Should be Started Right, turned out to be an appeal to buy Borden's condensed milk. Sometimes there is a real connection between the title and the contents of the advertisement, although the first two are at first sight quite different. Such are once in a while fairly effective. A picture of a mother and her 2 little children, all 3 at a piano and singing, is used to call attention to the Travelers Insurance Company. The picture of a pretty woman in the case of a watch is used in the same way by the Prudential, the aim being to suggest that a father should insure his life for the sake of his wife and family. A very handsome Wedgwood cheese dish is used to attract the eye to a description of Lee and Perrin sauce, but the two are linked together by the reminder that a little of the sauce on cheese is delicious. This is legitimate and sale-making. End of section 10.